Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. This week, we are joined with a member of one of last year's anchored groups, Busayo. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is an absolutely incredible human. And as always, I'm sharing her experience before, during, and after anchored as a way to inspire. Because I know when I was in the deep, dark depths of my emotional outsourcing, I had no models for what was possible, nowhere to aim for, because I didn't really understand what life could look like on the other side of my own codependent, perfectionist, and people pleasing habits. And Busayo is such an amazing example of what's possible, and so I am absolutely thrilled to share her story with you. As you're listening in, listen for what's similar. Listen for what's really resonant with your own experience. And if by the end of it, you're thinking, I'll have what she's having, I would be delighted to have you join us in Anchored. You can learn more and apply now at my website, beatrizalbina.com. That's Beatriz, Albina, A-L-B as in bunnies, INA.com/get anchored, GET anchored. I cannot wait to see you there. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
It's my pleasure.
Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself and share your pronouns and a land acknowledgement if you feel so moved?
Absolutely. My name is Busayo Ayodele, formerly Busayo A. Fatarin, but I've returned to my maiden name. Thank you. I am, by profession, a lawyer, human rights, employment law, and by passion, a lot more things. I have now taken on the name of multi passionate creative, and that is because I love a multitude of creative things. And Anchored has really helped me to really lean into these things a lot more. And so I've now updated my biography to include my creative interests, which includes singing, writing, improv. I'm also a natural hair enthusiast and a writer. So those are some of the creative interests that I love and have been exploring in this time period of my life. Um, in terms of land acknowledgement, I'm going to read this because there are a lot of caretakers of the land that I'm on, and I don't want to miss anyone. All right, so I am grateful to be on the land of Etobicoke, and specifically in Etobicoke, the caretakers of the land that I'm on are the Anishinaabe. Um, the area is also a part of the Adobakok, and I may mispronounce these things, so my apologies in advance. Um, and that means the place of the elders. This is also the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This is also land that's a part of Dish with One Spoon territory, as well as the Anishinaabe and allied nations. They peaceably share and care for this land, the waters, and all of the biodiversity in the Great Lakes region. So I'm grateful to acknowledge these indigenous lands and nations.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you again for being here. The work that I got to witness you and our whole familia and Anchored got to witness you doing was just so astounding. Like I honestly get a little tearful when I think about the woman I met with before Anchored and the woman sitting before me and the huge shift. And that's why you're here, right? To help inspire others. So, would you be so kind as to tell us what life was like and what led you to say, oof, it's time for Anchored?
Of course, of course. So I was practicing at a busy law firm, lots of clients, big files, married. I have one beautiful daughter. And so I was juggling all of the plates as one is wont to do when you have a lot of things and responsibilities like anyone. Um, what I found for myself though is that because I'm very empathetic, I was taking on a lot of the emotional stuff of other people and kind of putting myself last. And I kept hitting these like burnout walls, and it was draining. And I was looking for a way to participate in my life and not be a bystander. It felt like at a certain point I became, um, I'm not sure how to best describe it. It was almost like watching my life go by and not being in charge of the decisions. So it was like I'm playing a role, I'm showing up, I'm doing all the things. I also felt like, I did all the things right. So if I've got like the job, I've got the family, then why am I not feeling happy? Right? I say that with a question mark because I'm like, I'm supposed to be like really happy, but I wasn't feeling it. So I knew that I need to make a change. I started with doing a lot of self work of my own directional. I found your podcast. I was listening to that. I was taking notes and doing a lot of practice with a lot of the information you give on the podcast. So I love this podcast. I think it's a really good beginner entry point to help start making changes. Um, for me, the reason why I joined Anchored is because I knew I had some big life decisions that I needed to make in order for me to start feeling more aligned with the life that I expected to have. And I knew I was going to need some support for that. Right? So it's one thing to do it myself, but having the community and having your direction, I knew that would make the difference in terms of me just being like the student who takes in all the theory and then becoming the person who actually practices what they preach or practices what they read.
I'm hearing in there so many threads of my own life of that over functioning, functional freeze woman. Am I getting that right?
That's right.
It's so wild because you're like this fancy, high powered lawyer, and I was practicing medicine, and we were like doing all the things, but so whoomp, like shut off inside, eh?
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like the thought that came to me was distilled water, right? Where it's like you've taken all the stuff out of it, but if you take everything out, then you don't get like you need some of the natural minerals in the stuff, right? But there's got to be a balance, right? You want some, but not
Right.
too much. And so I kind of felt like, yeah, it was too sterile.
Right. And distilled water doesn't hydrate you, it doesn't nourish.
No, no,
That's such a great metaphor. I
yeah.
mean, we are both from metaphor rich people. So
There's that.
there's
There's
that.
that. It just comes out naturally. It's a better way of like, it's an easier way of like communicating and understanding, especially if you're visual. Like me,
Yeah.
I like to get a visual in my mind of like, okay, what
Yeah.
am I talking about? And so
Yeah.
that was that was the easiest to grasp.
It's so good. Be the cake. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So life felt like distilled water, right? You were there, you were doing the things. Is it fair to say the lights were on, but nobody was home? Because that's how I felt.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I remember there was a family party that I was at, and it's my nephew is like it's a birthday party, family's there, kids are there, and I remember being there and I was having conversations with people, but it wasn't like me there. It was kind of like, okay, someone comes, all right, I got to put on the, okay, have the conversation, smile, da, da, da. But I was not feeling any of it. So I felt like I was a performer in my own life. And I was just like, this isn't a way to live. I mean, when Shakespeare was talking about all the world's a stage, I'm like, I don't know that he meant like just like go to your nephew's kid go to the kids party and like perform there as well. At some point you got to take off, like you got to take off the performance.
Right. It's that like high functioning mask, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That turns into over functioning and doing all of it for everyone all the time except for ourselves.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So you hit that breaking point where you said, oof, I need some support. I need some help. Anchored.
Yes, yes, Anchored. And so I I decided it was going to be a gift to myself. I was going to invest in myself. I think sometimes for me, one of the difficult decisions uh, that I make is around like, oh, should I spend this on myself? Whereas if I'm buying gifts for other people, somehow I find it very easy to be like, I'm gonna get the stuff, I'm gonna get the packaging, I'm gonna put like I love to wrap a present. I love for there to be bows. I love for it to look beautiful and not just be like even the card, like and the message I write. I'm very like that's what I like. And so for me to not be giving that to myself, that really woke me up to okay, you say you love yourself, but are you really loving yourself or are you also doing the masking? Like so it's a little meta because I'm just like where at what point where are we at? Are you fooling yourself into like believing that there's a deep love there, or is there really that connection and there's just a lot of stuff in between? So for me, anchored was a way for me to just say, get out of the mind and the overthinking. I'm going to give myself this present of investing in myself where I am the focus. This is about me getting the support that I need in order to make some big life changes. And I'm so glad I did it. So glad. Like the woman that I am today, and the woman that I am who entered anchored, and the woman that I am that finished anchored. Like there's so many different evolutions and iterations that I've gone through just in that segment. So I was telling my mom yesterday, I said, the investment I made absolutely paid off because for me to be able to self regulate the way I did yesterday, after like I had a big emotional thing happen, and I was able to like walk through and stay present, whereas before I would dissociate. I'd be out. I was like gone. And so I was able to stay online, feel everything that was happening, like get my like emotions out, then call her and tell her, hey, this just happened to me. She asked, are you okay? Typically I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm gonna be fine. But then I said to her, I'm not fine. I'm upset, but I will be okay. And so that kind of helped with me being able to shift. And then also I was able to tell her, like after I calmed down later on, we spoke about it. I said, I'm so glad I did that life coaching because I wouldn't have been able to come down and regulate as quickly as I did. And it would have impacted today. I would have been like, wow, the old story I would have told myself is like everything clearly happens to me. And now I'm going to be in this bad mood, blah, 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 blah. And, it just goes and goes and goes. And I was able to just be like, it was a thing. It happened. Of course they did. And of course I did. And that's as far as it needs to go. Freedom.
Freedom. Freedom and like a profound step into honesty with yourself and someone you love as much as you love your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we're trying to be deceitful or lying or not telling the truth. But when we're in that functional freeze, we don't have like full access to our own truth, much less the truth of the situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's like like that piece of like having access,
Right.
like that. Those small nuances are the reason why you join an anchor, right? If you need, because for me, I'm very detail oriented, right? Like the details matter to me. I'm very attentive to detail, but one of the things that is easy to do when you're over functioning and you're trying to still make it is to just like focus on details where perhaps that's not where your attention really needs to be right now, but it feels safer because it's like if everything is overwhelming, maybe I can just like spend a bunch of time over here and just like buffer. Right? And it's like I love that access to honesty because that was something I needed to like honestly say to myself, like, am I doing this because it's aligned for me to do it? Am I looking for a way to avoid? Am I doing like thought bubbles and all of these different things because I just don't want to feel my emotions? Like what are we doing, right? And so now I have options. and I understand like what my options are and what they mean, and then also capacity. So I know I'm like throwing all these things out. It's because it's just stream of consciousness for how I've been able to navigate life in a more autonomous way, right? So having having the ability to understand that, okay, depending on what capacity I have right now, I can do X or I can do Y. Neither is bad. It's just about what's available and what I can access right now. I love it.
And that comes back to the honesty, right? So before, when we're stuck in all this emotional outsourcing, there's this story about what we should be able to access and should have the capacity to do. And it's all that I bristle a little at dishonest because it makes people feel guilt and shame. I don't think that's what it is. We just don't know what's real in the moment, right? And so we don't know how we
Mm,
could possibly show up. And I'm hearing you say that now you have skills and tools and capacity to know what's possible for yourself.
yes, yes, absolutely. And it helps because like I think for anyone who like you know is like a high achiever in anything that they do, like once you have developed a level of proficiency in something, you can almost like a lot of things go automatic. You're like, okay, I can do this, and it's not a big deal. And so I think there's some comfort there in staying in the known even if you're drowning, rather than looking into being a beginner again and perhaps getting a little bit more emotional competence. Right, because for people who like strive to be excellent, that's a good thing, like to want to be excellent in things that you do. And I think there are certain professions where being excellent is really 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 needed. And we depend on our service providers to have attained a level of excellency in order to care for us, right? So those things matter. However, where I think that dishonesty piece comes in is thinking that you can apply the fact that you have achieved, like in your career, or you've achieved academically, or I'm going to go with things that are most accessible to me, because the human rights lawyer in me is like, okay, let's be inclusive. And I'm like, if I start going down the line, it's going to get too much. But essentially for me, it's been that part of being honest about, okay, over here I'm a beginner. And so over here, since I'm a beginner, I'm going to fail a little bit, and then being honest about, oh, okay, that's what I get uncomfortable with. Failure. I don't want to be seen to fail. And then once I know that that's what's really under there, I can deal with that instead of like making it everybody else's problem that I'm trying to cover up and save face. Right? So,
That's woof. That those are some big potent words, right? Because especially by the time you're the fancy human rights lawyer, identity and ego get so wrapped up in being prolific, in being top of your game. And I hear this all the time when I'm talking to folks about Anchored. I should know this already. I should know how to do this. I've accomplished so much, like you said, academically, career, ba ba ba. I should know how to stay present in the room when my mom brings in conflict, or talk to my husband about, or. And that's where we block our own growth, because beginner's mind is so uncomfortable. I think there's no arguing that it can be uncomfortable, but not like sort of realizing that, right? Whereas if you go
yeah.
into it being like, well, this is going to suck for a minute.
Yeah, it's not as tangible. Like if you
Mm,
can't, when you can't see it, you can't touch it, it's not tactile,
right,
it's easy to forget, right? Like it goes back to being a child when you do like the whole peekaboo experiment, like it disappears.
right.
And so a lot of times I think for us, the geeks, the nerds, the ones who I identify lovingly with these terms.
Excellent.
Right? I love
Mm-hmm.
being a nerd, I love being a geek.
the
right? I love
best.
words, I love language. Like that's my jam. That's what I
Hmm.
love.
Hmm.
Right? But those things, unless you can like bring them out of like the theoretical, like the mystical, the like, the fantasy land, because it depends on whatever genre you're reading. If you can't bring it down into the physical environment to actually be like, oh, okay, what am I actually dealing with? Then it's hard to actually make sense of like, how do I overcome this invisible nothing? Because maybe I think it's a nothing burger, but actually it's a pink elephant that's like right, you think it's a small thing and it's like, actually, no, 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 it's an emotional elephant. It's huge.
It's huge. And it impacts every arena of your life. Not just dating, not just romance, not just work, not just parenting or being parented or being a friend. It impacts
Mm,
everything because it is who we are. Like emotional outsourcing impacts every corner of our lives.
yeah.
And so I'm hearing what you just shared, an invitation towards the practical. And so I'm curious what it was like for you to be a part of Anchored, to listen to the audio, to do the journals, to get coached. Like, can you paint us a picture of what it felt like and was like to be in Anchored?
Absolutely. So it started with me getting a gift in the mail, right? I love a good unboxing, right? So I got this beautiful journal. It also came with some other items. I won't ruin the surprise for others because, again, like no spoilers, but this one was big because I'm going to reference it, right? And so having, you know, stickers and it I guess for me, like, there are little things that I look to as care, and ways that you can um, show attunement and showing love for what you do. And so the little things matter to me, right? And so it felt immediately like, okay, this is not going to be like a regular course that I've been in. This is something different. Um, and so like I immediately like felt like, okay, I'm in good hands here. Um, and then joining the community, I was able to see other people in there who um, I kind of felt like I wasn't the only one who was a little bit like, okay, it's like first day of school vibes where it's like, okay, you're gonna meet new people and like you don't know what it's gonna be like, but you're like excited for what it, what's to come. And so for me, it was getting acquainted with the platform, seeing different people that were going to be in the group. I love that it was go at your own pace. And so I was able to access modules as I needed them. I had my handy journal. And when we did breath work, I would always have it so I could even write down my reflections coming out of that. And so this just became like a little bit of a safety blanket for me as well, having this. So I would always bring it to everything. I'd bring it to coaching, I'd bring it to breath work, like all the time. So I have a lot of things referenced in here. What else? Coaching. Coaching was unlike anything that I've experienced before, I have to say. Um, and I'm pausing here so that I don't let the tears roll. um, it was an opportunity for me to put myself out there. So just like a little aside, part of healing for me was around educational spaces because most of my, well, actually I could say, yeah, I the first time that I actually um, felt like I could raise my hand and be like ask questions and feel a bit more comfortable wasn't actually until law school. I had to intentionally take a course with a professor that was Nigerian because that was the first time I was ever going to be taught by a Nigerian professor. I'm Nigerian culturally. And also a black professor, right? So for me, this was also an opportunity to heal that little girl who kind of felt like, oh, like you have to like really, 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 really have it together if you're gonna raise your hand because you'll be out there and you don't want to look stupid. And so, because this was a gift to myself and the whole idea was to put myself out there, it helped me to do it in a safe container. And so, being able to be okay with like, okay, I'm taking up some space here. Um, I'm allowing myself to be seen in a vulnerable way, and even though like this is a vulnerable issue for me, I'm going to be okay allowing other people to see my vulnerability. And it's not going to have an impact on my reputation or who I am as a person in the world. So it gave me that space to just like hang up like the Superwoman cape for a moment and just be Busayo. And that type of freedom was, I mean, how do you quantify that? Because a lot of people depend on me, um, and so it's not as easy for me to do that in other spaces. So being able to do that in coaching and say, okay, this is what's happening, and use real time. Like I was going through a lot of heavy emotional um, life things. And so to be able to bring that to coaching and say, this is what's happening and I need some support on how to move through this, life changer. Completely life changer. I'm like, yeah, be brief. Life changing.
I love that you shared such depth and then cut to a bumper sticker,
Yeah.
which is
We need both.
often, we need both. One of the things that people share is that they're scared of the community. Like, will people be nice? Will they be kind? Will they be welcoming? Will they be made fun of? Will they? And I know you loved your anchored community, so could you speak to that a bit?
Of course. This is, yeah, it was not that anchored. We'd even have people share that vulnerability around like, okay, I'm uncertain about how to even like make friends or like how to navigate that or being afraid. And my my squad was not like that. It like I would also receive separate messages from people afterward to be like, to encourage me, right? And so it was like, even if like they didn't want to share in the chat, they found a way to reach me to say like we see you, and like you're doing amazing, and for you to share vulnerably, that helped me. Thank you for like doing coaching and being like using your life example as a way to get coached on, because it helped me, right? And so that type of impact individually really helped my growth and helped my confidence, because I wasn't going in for the purpose of helping other people, right? This was a gift for myself. However, it's like an even better gift when in your learning someone else is also benefiting, right? Like that just made it all the more better, where it's like, okay, this is a space where people are actually here not to poke fun at others or to like make anyone feel small. If you would spend like your hard-earned money to go into a community to do that, then I think that like it I don't know. I'm not judgy, but I'm judgy, right? I'm and that's a space where like we would actually be judgy, like to someone who was doing that. We would say this is not the space for that.
Right. And what's amazing, and I'm going to knock on wood, but like the vibe has always been love muffin or nothing, right? Like you come into this room, you are kind, and so that's just the vibe. It's always been the gestalt, and
Yeah,
it's super magical because it does, like you said, open up so much space for exploration and connection.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember like you set the tone very early on. So there was a call that you did before Anchored started, where it was like if you were still trying to make the decision, right? And I remember in that space, someone had like they'd almost it was almost like they were trying to challenge you about a decision you'd made about whether to accept them into the program at a certain whatever, but just listening and watching the way that you handled it, I was already like, "Oh, I feel so safe here." I was like, I am so glad I committed. I'm like, if I was like, let me check my email. Did I confirm? Because the way you handled it was in such a loving way when the person wasn't being loving to you. They weren't being honoring to your space. They were making it about their own individual like their objection to whatever it was that was private between the two of you, and trying to bring it into an open forum, which would throw the vibe off. And the way that you handled it, I was like, this is a master class. Take notes. Like, how do you how do you handle a disruptor with love and boundaries?
I remember that call. That was over a year ago. Like, and I totally remember that call and that person trying to, yeah, yeah,
It
doing the
was
best
almost
they
like,
could with the skills they had, right?
I
But
guess,
not in mama's space.
and I loved it because I was just like,
Busayo takes notes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I take my job as the guardian of this space so friggin' seriously. So seriously, right?
yes,
It's one of the most important things because if y'all's nervous systems can't exhale and know that you're held and there will be zero shenanigans, lots of nonsense, but no shenanigans, then what are we doing? You can't grow.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm glad you saw that. I'm glad you like were like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes, because it matters,
It
right?
does.
It matters who, like, there's a lot of different programs, right? So it's kind of like when people say, like, you could have gone anywhere and you came here. That's what they say in like churches. I'm a
Uh-huh.
churchy girl, right? So on a Sunday they were like, you could have gone to. There's so many churches along the way, but you found yourself in this pew today, right? It's the same thing with programs, right? There are a lot of different life coaches, but there's only one Bea. However, like that understanding of seeing you be so you in your space, it's not just about how you one-on-one help each individual. It's more so of just seeing how you navigate as yourself with your skill set. That also is a teaching mechanism, right? Because it now gives permission where it's like, okay, I'm seeing you do it. I'm seeing how you navigate like multiple things at once. We're not just talking about, okay, I'm gonna help you like do your goals and your goal setting, and like I'm not trying to make fun. Those things are important. However, for me, that's surface level, right? I'm a person who's like, I'm looking for depth. I want to know, like, can we deep dive? If we go deep diving into emotional land, will you be able to send the submarine to come get me if I go too deep? Or am I lost out here in the abyss forever? It matters.
It matters. And just for the record, I would send the orcas
Oh,
because they're on our side.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
anytime.
I appreciate you.
Listen, it is so mutual. It is so mutual. Um, a question just popped into my mind that it's something that I hear often, which is how is Anchor different? And what do I gain that's different than just listening to the podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question, and I had to spend some time with that for myself because I was listening to the podcast. I don't know how long. I might have listened a year before I did Anchored. So I made a lot of progress. I made a lot of progress by listening to the podcast and practicing putting those things into my life. And I still leveled up significantly by doing Anchored. So the podcast is, there's a lot of gems, there's a lot of fruit in there, but um, oh, I'll use this example. I was talking to a friend earlier, and I'd explained to her as well about like I did this life coaching, and so now I'm like the person who's like, oh, who tells people like, do life coaching. It's so great, but only if you want to. Consent, of course. I'm not pushing you. And so I was saying to her that for me, the difference it makes is like from theory to practice. It's one thing to listen to the episodes and practice doing what you hear. It's another to like have it happen in real time and be highly activated and get coaching like in that type of scenario, if that's something that you want. Not everyone, like, you don't have to, but for me, I wanted like, give me the ambulance like type of scenario where it's like a paramedic is like, they've got to deal with this now, right? And it's a real person, everything's happening. So if we're thinking it's an emergency, because sometimes that's how it feels in the nervous system, I was able to get that in real time of like, okay, I feel like this is an emergency. I feel like this is like the 911 moment. And then I show up to coaching, and then we talk it through, and I'm just like, oh, you mean to tell me that's not it either? I don't get to, oh, damn. I'm just like, I thought this was the what? I thought this was the issue where you were going to be like, absolutely shut it all down. We're coming with the torches. We're burning it all to the ground. We get to crash out. Everybody's crashing out. Everyone in Anchored's catching flights. We're all coming in, Busayo. It's done. Right? I'm like, this is the moment. And then we go through coaching, and it's like, no, honey, it's this is not the moment. However, I can validate where you're at, and I can be present with you as you feel the gravity of this. And I won't gaslight you. I won't lie to you and tell you that something is safe when, from what you told me, it sounds completely not safe. And that really helped me, right? Because a lot of people kept telling me like, oh, like all these platitudes. But when I came and I brought the issue and for coaching, and you said to me, and you looked at me and you said, no, you're a Black woman. I'm not about to lie to you and tell you that you shouldn't be concerned about that. And you looked me dead in my eye, and you're just like, yeah, no, that's, you're right. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that, just getting that. Okay. And so once you said that, it took away the additional explaining that I have to do, or that I've done, because I've now dropped that. I don't have to do anything. And so either you get it or you don't, and then I can decide whether or not in this scenario it makes sense for me to add in more explanation. But before, I thought, okay, I have to explain my humanity in order to even get like to the next. Like, it was a prerequisite for us to even have the conversation. I have to first explain the basis of my humanity for this conversation. And for you to just be like, oh, whoa, I see you, and yeah, we can just skip, and now we can just talk about this. And I was like, whew. And it's like, that's all my nervous system needed in that moment, to just be like, oh, okay, all right, so reality is what it is. And still, even in the chaos of whatever this situation is, there's still access, there's still an ability to I'm laughing at myself because I'm like, to not crash out, to find calm, and it's not in this fake, oh, I'm just gonna pretend that everything is like lovely, let me go meditate when I feel like throwing stuff. You would ask, you give options. You're like, okay, how do we want to handle this? Do you want to get into the body? Do you want to be in the mind? Like, you, and I'm like, oh, Okay, so there are options for how we navigate this, and for you to be willing to just get into it with us and be like, okay, I'm here with you and I'm going to help you based on what capacity you have right now, not on where you think you would like to be or you wish you could be. And if we couldn't get there, you would see us and you would offer that, okay, from what I'm seeing, and you give us that feedback. And then you'd even give us the ability to consent to your suggestion or to say no. Like, so just like to be given that many opportunities to provide consent, I have to say, being in a woman's body, that's huge. We're not asked a lot to consent. It just happens. Like, and so it's like the body has become so like acclimated to just being intruded on in even the smallest ways that when it becomes the bigger ones, it becomes so much more difficult to handle. And so understanding that, oh, this is why I've been struggling, because I was able to see from Anchored, like it was like a timeline opened up and I could see like the little sticks on the timeline, the little ticks, to be like, oh, okay, so this is 1 centimeter of freeze. This is 2 centimeters, three, and to go into those micro doses as opposed to being like, oh, this big event happened. And like that is why. Like, but it was like, oh no, no, no. If you add up all of these cumulative things, then I was like, oh, it makes so much sense why I've been burnt out and I'm exhausted. It makes a lot of sense. And because of that, now I can find my way back. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember that coaching call, the one you referenced, where I was like, you are a Black woman, and truth,
Yeah.
potent. Yeah.
You
And
told me to
I,
protect myself.
oh,
Like
yeah,
you're like, no, 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 no. Protect
mm-mm.
yourself.
Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Open heart and smart protection. They can go together. They can move together. And I want to thank you for showing up with that open heart and vulnerability and honesty so that we could have that. Because that takes two. That's mutuality. That's reciprocity. That's interdependence between you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Mi amor. So, you've been talking, some sort of alluding to what it's like now. And I'm wondering, in the time we have left, if you could paint us a picture of like what has changed concretely in how you relate, how you parent, how you work, how you ba 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 ba.
Okay, so what has changed concretely is that I've not allowed myself to go back into the time frame of where I was just like I felt like I was floating in outer space and there was no way to get back to the spaceship, and I was just going to be out there, and whatever little push of like against the gravitational pull. I like, okay, work with me in this. I don't know all the terms. If you're an astronaut and I love that for you. Me, I'm just gonna make it up. And so whatever like would push me, and that would be how I'd like bounce from like Mars and like all the stuff, right? Now it's like I know how to run the spaceship. Like I know how to like hook in like the little bungee cord thing, and I could launch the spaceship myself. So if I want to go sightseeing out there in the galaxy, I can go. It's like, and then I can come back. And it's almost like, oh, it's like I got my own spaceship Bugatti, and it's like I can go sightseeing around the universe, because I liken that to being able to access a meditative space at any moment. So it doesn't matter what type of chaos is around me. Like the chaos is there. It's very real. Like that's reality. However, I'm able to anchor into myself to say that regardless of what's happening, I don't have to join the circus. I can decide whether or not I'm going to be a participant in this, or I'm going to be an observer, or like I just have options. And so, what that looks like concretely with my parenting, it means that I'm teaching my daughter how to self regulate, and I'm seeing the impact to her friend group. This is a 5 year old, right? And so, I practice with her because I'm parenting in this way. And so, when I say to her that, okay, like I trust you to be able to get through this tantrum. Like I don't say that to her, but like essentially that's the story I'm telling myself. Like, okay, as a mother, I'm going to trust that she's going to be able to get through this tantrum, and so am I. We're both going to make it through this. But as I've been able to show her that she can trust her body, and I've explained to her, like, you're having big emotions. Like, and I've said that to her multiple times where now she's not afraid of her emotions. And I'm not afraid of them, right? Like she'll like go up. I've got like an emotions chart by the window there, and she'll just go pick it up because it has the little faces, and so she'll go pick it up and she'll like look to be like, and she'll go through the different emotions, and like we've used it as a way for her to start reading, and also for like first it was to just recognize the emotions, but now she's learning to read, and so she's able to like read through the words and attach it. So it's played multiple, it's given dividends. I love an emotions chart. And so in my parenting it's become easier because now I partner with my child. It's not this whole power struggle. It's like I cannot control whatever emotions, and when she tries to put it on me, like you've made me so, and I'm like, I'm gonna let you have your moment, and then after like you get through the big stuff, I'm gonna remind you that your power is in these are your emotions. Mommy didn't make you do anything, but mommy is here to be with you through it. And I remind her that over and over so that it's like a tape recorder. And by the time she, you know, she's an adult, she'll have that as a base, like in her mind to remind her that, oh, that's right, that's right. Like my emotions are mine, mommy's emotions are hers. And even with her friends, like she'll tell me things that happened on the playground, and we'll talk through it and we'll role play. And then she feels more empowered in how she navigates friendships because that's really difficult, especially for a 5 year old, on how to navigate who got the toy first and whose time is it to like all of that stuff. And so because she knows more, I even tell her, okay, like maybe like, you know, you get to like you don't get to now use that as a way to like manipulate. Now you have to use this for like the force of good, where now she helps her friends, or and if she can't, I tell her like just be a kid. Like you don't have to now start trying to like be like mommy in the classroom, like because mommy's teaching you. Just go be a kid, and if so and so did whatever, now you understand that that's all so and so was able to do at that point. Because she'll tell me, she's like, and so and so did it, and I'm like, you don't have to do all that, sweetheart. You can recognize it, and then we can talk through it, and like, what does that mean? How did you feel about it? Da, 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 da. And now she's even more autonomous with me. She'll tell me, mommy, we're talking too much about this. And then I'm like, oh, what did I create? I wanted I wanted her to have autonomy. Now she
And
practices
now you got
autonomy.
it, and it's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so amazing. Right. I talk so much about how this work ripples, right? And we need this work now more than ever because of how it ripples out.
Yes.
And how
It's
beautiful.
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like literally you say it every time at the end of your podcast, it is true. When
Yeah.
one of us heals, we help heal the world. And
Mm.
I love that because I look at my local community and I'm like, okay, everything that I've been doing to heal, I now just live this. And so when I interact with anyone and I'm consistent,
Hmm.
then they now see me as someone who is consistent in my boundaries, consistent in my care, my kindness, all of those things. And so now they can trust that, okay, if I interact with her, okay, what I get is what I get. She's not putting on a front. She is what she appears to be, and she's not going to switch up and pretend that like what it was, or all of that. And
Yeah.
so it does help, because then people, like, like my daughter, for instance, she understands that if I say a thing, if the tantrum gets bigger, it doesn't matter. So then it's peaceful for me, because I'm like, the tantrums are shorter now.
That's incredible. And you're creating so much secure attachment for her.
It's the goal. That
That
is the
that
goal.
is that's stunning. Well, my love, I have kept you for almost an hour, and I'm so grateful. I am curious as we wrap up, what would you say to someone who is on the fence, who is nervous about taking this big leap, doesn't just what would you say to that person?
Um, I would say create some access for yourself to sample and decide, right? Because a lot of times the on the fence is because you don't have enough information. And so you have offered so many different ways to connect with you outside of Anchored and outside of the podcast, that like if there's an offering, like get on the mailing list so that you could see it. And if you're on the fence, go to one of those offerings, because then you'll be able to engage more directly. I think it's kind of like a date, right? You don't know until you connect a little, and then you can get a bit of more understanding. And so I'm not one to just be like, just do it, take the plunge, or no, like do it in a safe, contained way for yourself, and then it makes it a little bit more easier for you to decide. What I do know is that this program is very unique in the way that it combines multiple disciplines. And so if you're looking for that efficiency, like I'm a person who values efficiency. And so if you've got multiple disciplines that are incorporated into a program, you're getting more than like, you're getting the bang for your buck. So some people make decisions based on the financial investment, which is a good a good thing to do, right? You should be a good steward of your resources. However, what I would say is figure out what it is that is important to you in terms of your quality of life, because that kind of helped me with that. I was just like, okay, the quality of life that I want to have matters for what the baseline of my finances will be. So if I want to have more, then if I am a more peaceful, calm person, I will access better ideas, etc. So there's going to always be um, well, then again, I can't say that. It really depends on how much you're willing to put in. I have to remember not everyone is the same. So you have to ask yourself, how much am I willing to put into this? Do I have the time to actually invest in myself so that I can get the output that I'm looking for? Because if you're thinking it's going to be like this magical like pill, no, it requires you to show up and participate. If you don't participate, then you're not going to get the benefit. For me, I knew what I wanted. I outlined it for myself, and then I looked and I said, Bea's Anchored program is a match. And I checked. I was diligent. Is there something else that will be able to meet these needs? And no, not for all the boxes that I needed to check. So if you do that type of assessment and you're thorough, it will help you to not be on the fence. And if you are on the fence, then perhaps you're not focused in enough on what it is you're trying to get out of it, and that's really important for you going into anything. Set the intention. What do you want? Bea will help you get it. If you tell her, this is what I want, she'll help you thought work it, she'll help you embody it, she'll help you get there. So that's my pitch.
I love it, and I love it how deep nerd you went. So
I
thank
can't
you.
help it.
Please don't ever help it. Please, more nerd, more better.
I
It's our
love it.
motto around here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, layers. We need layers of
Layers and
nerd.
layers of nuance and nerd. Thank you so much for being amazing. You bringing your whole self to Anchored, being such a vibrant, beautiful, inspiring part of the community, and then coming on the show a year later to share just how profoundly not only you've grown, but how much this work has helped your beautiful and amazing daughter. I have had little tears the whole time you've been talking because my heart is so full. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me and Busayo for that incredibly potent, powerful, and amazing conversation. I feel so lucky, honored, and grateful every single day that I have the extreme good fortune and privilege and honor of getting to coach women like her. Wow, it is humbling and I am so grateful. And I would love the opportunity to coach you within Anchored. If all of this is resonating, why not apply now? Head on over to my website, beatricealbina.com/get anchored and join us. Let's do what we do. Gentle hand on your heart should you feel so moved. And remember, you are safe, you are held, you are loved. And when one of us heals, we help heal the world. Be well, my beauty. Ciao, ciao. Mwah. Talk to you soon.